Hi, I'm Jonah McIntire, I lead products at Transporeon. I'm going to introduce you to Freight Marketplace. This is a product that I actually got to help build at an individual level. Very excited. So let's get started. When we think about the logistics industry, and particularly the buying and the selling, the deal-making part of this industry, we really look at it as an industry that's missing critical infrastructure. What do we mean by missing critical infrastructure? Well, if we compare it to another marketplace, such as the NASDAQ, where there's buying and selling going on, it's much, much larger than that, but it lacks aspects like the ability to find all of the potential buyers or sellers in the market, or a best price execution guarantee that you simply are paying the fair price, the same price that someone else would pay for a service, or you're being paid the same price that someone else would for the service. So this is where we look at this industry and say, there's something missing. There's something that Transporeon, as a significant network owner and operator, can help solve. We set out to solve, in particular, three problems that we see. The first is that no one is sure that they're working with the right partners. This is both for the buyers and the sellers in the logistics sector. So if you're a carrier, if you're a seller of services, you can't identify who are all the buyers, who are all of the shippers or the major logistics providers, the 3PLs, who you could work with and whether or not they're suitable for you. And the situation's even harder for the shippers because the carrier community is so diverse, so fractional, and many of these carriers have no presence on a registry, even online, so therefore it's very difficult to find them. This whole counterparty discovery we see as our first area to focus on. The second is around pricing. Unfortunately, there's still a large gap between what one party would pay or be paid for a service compared to another, even if the service is essentially the same. And this lack of information clarity is obviously not good for one of those parties. Someone is always buying or selling the service away from what the fair price would be, but it also just isn't good overall for the community because we end up spending an inordinate amount of effort trying to negotiate to be sure that we're getting to the best price. And the prices are quite volatile, both for true reasons, but also because of this lack of information. The result is that no one's really satisfied with their pricing. Even if you are paying the lowest price in the market or earning the highest in the market, you wouldn't know it. So your sense is that you're unsatisfied, or you have this worry that you're actually not going to have the best pricing. And then the last is just effort. It's simply too hard right now for people to find each other and strike fair pricing. The tools that we have at our disposal don't live up to our expectations. There's essentially no tools at our disposal for the sell side, so for the carriers. And when we bring this all together, we see a problem of not being able to find the right people, not being able to strike fair prices, and spending too much effort to get the results that we have. So then, what is Marketplace really about? Well, I want to simplify it for you down to a couple key points. If you're a buyer, this tool is free to use. And I put this number one because I think this is actually the most counterintuitive and compelling aspect about this product. Most people who are doing significant logistics procurement, they'll be spending somewhere between 20,000 and 100,000 euros a year on a procurement software, procurement tool, and this is free. So that's a significant value proposition. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to bring you much faster results, as we described here. Now, what do I mean by much faster results? If you run a procurement event, you can expect, in Marketplace, you can expect for the first offers to be coming in within 15 to 30 minutes. Now, maybe 15 to 30 minutes is not actually what you need in terms of speed. Like if you run an event once a year, if you have to wait a day, that's of little consequence to you. But many procurement organizations have what they call mini bids. They have procurement which needs to take place on a rolling basis, or maybe it's every month. The parts of the routing guide which aren't really being honored or aren't working are re-tendered. Or you may not have an annual event at all, and you work most on a project basis. So as new sales are potentially being made, you need to secure the rates in order to be able to deliver your goods. And these bases, speed matters. Getting an offer within 15 to 30 minutes and being able to collect dozens, maybe as much as 100 offers within 24 hours is really substantial. So we think the speed is the second point. And the third point is that this isn't a single player tool. This isn't something that we deliver to you and you install on your computer and use. This is really a community that it's plugged into out of the box. And that community is also giving you information about the rate benchmarks. So not just who is there, which carriers, what are they good at, but also what is the appropriate price to be paying for these services. Now, if you're a seller, in other words, if you're a carrier or a logistics provider, the benefits are a little different. For you, the first thing, which is the most important, is that you're going to get full access to all of the procurement events that are taking place in Transporeon. What do we mean by that? Well, if you were invited to the event, you'll see the full detail information of who invited you. So for example, if I was invited by a major company like Nestle, I'll see Nestle's name, I'll see their full addresses. But if for anything that I wasn't invited to, I can still reply, I can still participate in the procurement event. It's just been anonymized. So I can see that someone wants services and they're willing to take my offer on those services, but I can't see their identity yet. I can't see their full addresses, just their first 2-digit on their postal code. This allows us to balance the need of getting you access to all of the events and all of the high quality business that you could win with the legitimate need to keep private information private for the companies that are using Transporeon. The second thing it's going to do for you is standardize all of these events. This is a really important one for the seller community because if you are replying to RFQs, let's say you had 5 RFQs that arrived on your desk, today they would each have a different format. So they may all have the same underlying requirement. Let's say, for example, that each of them is telling you, I do not include fuel in my rates, so the fuel will be indexed. This is sort of line haul only type rates. But they'll say it in different ways. So you just have to spend a lot of effort and energy to understand what is in that procurement event. And we standardize these procurement events. Every one of them is going to be structured the same way. They have different inputs, but they're structured the same way. And what we've seen in our early access period is that the carrier community can process these RFQs and reply back to the ones that they want with correct offers very fast as a result. So it's going to reduce your labor cost and simplify the team that has to deal with RFQs. And then the last is similar to on the shipper side, the buyer side, is that you are going to get access to a community. Again, it's not a single player mode tool, it's a community that you're joining. And there's a lot of benefits to that in getting access to new shippers that you've never worked with, but also in benchmarking your rates that you're about to offer. Okay, so let me highlight for you a couple things that we think are distinguishing factors of the marketplace. I'm going to highlight 5 functional points or aspects of the product that we think are differentiated and therefore compelling to you. The first is that we have a definitive catalog of the supplier base known to Transporeon inside Marketplace. What this means is that if you're a supplier, in other words, you're a carrier, logistics provider, you can go and claim a profile and describe your business in more complete detail, and then this is available to all of the shippers in Transporeon. It's available for the shippers to search, as you would expect, by various aspects of those businesses, where they operate, how long they've been in business, how big are they, what's their fleet composition, what routes are they interested in. And it's there to allow the sellers to showcase themselves, to showcase what they're good at, so that in the niche or the area of their business where they really are the leader, they can win business from new shippers that they've never worked with before. The second aspect is what I described earlier of being able to make offers on all procurement events. So if I'm a logistics provider, I can make offers on every procurement event that Transporeon has access to. To give some context, our freight procurement product currently runs more than 20 billion euros a year worth of logistics service procurement. That's 20 billion euros worth of business that the carrier community can begin bidding on. And for the buyers, this is in an anonymized format if you didn't invite the carrier, so you're not losing information. It does allow you to see the information about the carrier, so it's a bit of a one-way mirror. The shipper can see who the carrier is that's making these offers and visit their profile to get more information. If it looks like an interesting carrier, they're working with other shippers, they've been around for a while, they're of substantial size, whatever, then you can initiate a personal contact, a non-anonymized contact, and gather the documents and certifications that you would need. The third point is that we built this product from the ground up for data science. Now, many people at this point say, well, what does that really mean? What it means is that we can begin to collect data and then give back to the community recommendations or guidance about things that until now would have seemed more like stylistic questions. So I'll give you an example. When you run a procurement event as a buyer, should you just run one round? You ask everybody for their best price and then you award? Or should you do another round of negotiation? If you do 2 rounds, should you do 3? If you do only 2 rounds, should you renegotiate with everybody who participated or just the top carriers? How many are the top carriers? Is it 10%? Is it 20%? Should you make them an offer or should you ask them for an improved offer? Each of these seems like a stylistic question, but it's not actually. It has a definitive answer. If you collect enough data over enough procurement events, you'll identify that one of those patterns is better. And that's the kind of work that we can do with Marketplace today. It also allows us to standardize, as I mentioned earlier. So we can standardize the procurement events even if from the buying side they aren't standard. Now, this is important to point out that when we say standardize, we mean that the carrier view, the view that the carrier sees of that procurement event, looks the same regardless of which event it is. But that doesn't mean the buyers are forced into this. So the buyers can structure their procurement event as they will, as they want, and then that is mapped into a abstract, central standard view of the procurement events, and that is what's shown to the carriers. Fourth is that we have rate benchmarking connected at a base level here. So what this means is that not country to country like you might have experienced with Market Insights, but really postal code to postal code, what are other people paying or being paid in contracted rates for this service? So this allows us, we think, to kind of remove a bit of the veil of secrecy around pricing and help people find the fair price in the market faster. And it's really brought into the moment. If you ever were going to want to know when what was being paid for a service, it's when you're buying or selling that service. So it's really brought into the moment where it's of most consequence. And the last is our pricing model. So we took the traditional model of selling procurement software to buyers, in other words, to shippers, and we reversed that. We said for the shipper community, this will be free. And for the carrier community, we took an innovative membership model where we said it's a low membership price, it's 100 euros a month. Once you are a member, you get access to all of the features, all of the volume. There's no additional costs. And it allows us, we think, to move the cost away from the shipper who often has a procurement tool that was built in-house or was imposed on them as a multi-category procurement tool, but isn't really suited to logistics and isn't really helping the carrier either to get their job done, and move it over to the cost basis to move it over to the carrier who sees it as a cost of sale and a very reasonable cost of sale in order to get access to a large number of new shippers and new business. So those are 5 key points. Freight Marketplace, our next generation procurement product. We're very excited to have it. I'd recommend anybody who is interested to simply sign up. You can self-sign up. We'll get you registered with an account within a few hours typically, and then you can begin buying or selling. Look forward to seeing your success there.